Well. Welcome to Purpose Center Leadership Live. Today is Monday, and our usual time. It is 1:20 Eastern, and welcome to our show. If you are joining us, I'd love for you to put in the comments where you're calling from, where you're watching from, where you're viewing from, so that I could say hello to you. So I'm going to give it a couple seconds to get our folks to log in. We're broadcasting live on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and also on Facebook. So, all right. Today we're going to talk about top 10 leadership mistakes, right? The top 10 mistakes that leaders make. And it's taken from this book that was written or published in 1994, but is still relevant today. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Samantha. Hi, Zola. Hi, Grant. Welcome. Glad to have you guys here. Thank you for supporting our show. And I'm going to put a link in the comments that if you want to be a guest on our show, that please fill out the application. It's pretty quick. It's about a minute. You just have to be a leader in your organization and willing to appear on camera. So thank you for joining in. Thank you for logging on. We have Oman, the Bahamas, Mauritius, Toronto, Canada, St. Louis, DC, Egypt. So wonderful to have you. Central Florida, Alicia, Indiana, Crystal, Nairobi, Felix, Vancouver, Canada, Zola from could be ZA, maybe Zaire, Chip from Atlanta. Thank you so much. Hello, Gwen from North Carolina, where I'm at. Glad that you guys are here. Thank you so much for popping in. Today, we're going to talk about the top 10 mistakes that leaders make. And it's taken from this book, which was published in 1994, but relevant today. So I'm probably going to get through maybe 2 or 3 of these mistakes. So if you guys have other mistakes that you want to, talk about, please put them in the comments and I'll try to pop it on screen. But the first mistake that we're going to challenge is mistake number 1, having a top-down attitude, right? A top-down attitude. And I know that leadership has evolved since 1994, but there are still leaders making the mistake of having that top-down attitude. And I know that our viewers are from all over the world. So, for example, I'm originally from Jamaica, right? So there was a lot of top-down leadership there when I was growing up, when I was first getting my first job. It's evolved over the years. We've had different models like servant leadership and other models, participatory style leadership, but there are still companies practicing top-down leadership. Hello, Melvin from Chicago. And top-down leadership, here's some of the character traits, right? Abusive authority, deplorable delegation, lack of listening, right? When we talk about top-down leadership, we're thinking more authoritative leadership, but the lack of listening is part of the character trait of having a top-down leadership. Dictatorship in decision-making and lack of letting go, right? Where the leader feels like only him or her, she or him can do the job. So, lack of letting go. And of course, an egocentric manner. I'm taking it from this book, Top 10 Mistakes That Leaders Make. I love this little book. It's old. It's from 1994, but it is relevant today. And so I'd love to hear you guys' comments on that. So one of the turn-ons, and it's particularly addressed the needs of young people, millennials, Gen Z. One of the turn-ons, right? What people like, what this particular generation like is love, recognition, and praise. I remember doing a survey in one of my organizations years ago and asking a question, what is more important to you, a pay raise or praise and promotion, right? And of course, everyone loves money, but interestingly enough, there were people who actually put that the praise was more important and the promotion, right? So, because a lot of times when, companies are handing out raises, it's like a 2%, and it's something, but Employees would rather you recognize them, especially publicly, and promote them, because you know what? They're all about growing. So again, I'd love to hear your comments as if you agree or disagree, and I'll put your comments up here on the screen. But recognition and praise are one of the things that, people are looking for. So top-down leadership, where it's all about the leader, where it's egocentric, that is not working. Another interesting piece, time spent with managers, right? Employees, especially the Gen Zs, are looking for time spent with managers. And you might wonder, time spent with managers doing what? They want the managers to give them feedback, right? To give them feedback, to invest in their career, to invest in their actual career growth. I know when I was a young employee, I wanted my manager to tell me, to mentor me, right? To tell me what I could do to rise up the corporate ladder. And I often talk about this supervisor I had. I worked with American Express in New York, one of my first jobs in this country. And I had a supervisor, her name was Julie, and she gave me tremendous mentorship. I was 23 or 24 years old at the time. And she told me, for example, she told me what books to read. She told me what magazines to read. And I remember her telling me to read Working Woman magazine. Again, I was a 24-year-old immigrant from Jamaica. And she told me where to go and get my clothing. She told me what store she shopped at. She told me what type of attaché I should purchase. She told me how to write my performance appraisal. I mean, this woman, this manager really invested in me. And within 6 months, I was promoted in that company. Okay. And it was really based on her mentorship. This manager was taking the time. She told me simple things like, and this was back in 19, and I'm dating myself, but it's okay. 1988. She told me to stay later, to help other supervisors who weren't my direct supervisors, but to ask them if they need additional help. I followed her advice, right? Like a playbook. And I told her within 6 months, I was promoted. And within 1 year, I became a pace setter. So if there's any American Express people in the audience, I don't know if they still do that program, but a pace setter was a top 5% of American Express employees worldwide. So within 1 year, based on her mentorship, I became a pace setter and was granted an opportunity to fly with the other pace setters to Australia. Okay, that's because a manager took that interest in me. Okay, so Ahmed says leaders nowadays are not focusing on creativity and making it simple attitude. They're not. And it's unfortunate. Managers have such an impact. Now, this happened to me in 1988. It's 2021. And I don't know my supervisor's last name, but I remember her first name, and I remember the impact she had on my career. I went on to have an amazing career at this company. I became pace setter 2 more times within that company, and had an amazing career because a manager took the time to invest in me. So egocentric leadership is not effective. Let's see. Roger said it costs nothing for leaders to show appreciation. It's absolutely free. And the returns are impressive. The returns are very impressive. This book says that what employees, especially younger employees, want to know is how what they're doing now is making them more marketable. You see, friends, this was a shift that leaders had to make. When someone joins your team, yes, you want them to stay there forever, right? And you want them, you're investing in them, and you want them to be loyal to you. And of course, but here's what they want. They want to know how you can help them grow so they're marketable, period. And if you treat them well, then they'll give you that time, right? But it's not a guarantee. So are you the kind of leader who will be selfless, right? Where you will invest in your people, knowing that they may one day get up and leave. Again, I've had companies in my career who've sent me to amazing trainings. And, I stayed with the company for several years, but then that training was my stepping stone for something else. As a matter of fact, the training I received at American Express was a stepping stone for me to open my own business 8 years later, a very customer-centric business. But I all my training came from that company, from that corporation. And I'm always grateful to them. So what does your company stand for? How does your company treat its employees? Are they giving them a platform to grow? Is there a robust training program? This is the reason why, what I do, I work with leaders and I work with companies to help them, obtain strategies for growth, get clarity. And also when they're at an impasse with their team and with their growth, they invite me to come in to consult to see what are they doing wrong. And many times it's really the corporate culture, right? Is it a training culture, or is it, an egocentric top-down culture? Or, where's the opportunities for your employees to actually participate, because they are your most important asset. So the next point that this book mentioned was that employees are looking for opportunities to learn new things, right? This is huge. Let's see. Let me just see. Eduardo said, let me put you up here, Eduardo. Ego in management is killing many companies, and lack of mentoring people is destroying the future of the next generation. Eduardo, I couldn't agree with you more. We need managers who mentor. We all have stories of managers who are actually envious of the rising star, right? Managers who actually keep people down because they want to protect their positions, and it's killing organizations, right? So as Roger says, you have to set yourself up as a leader. You have to set your team up to be successful. But if you're going to do that, you cannot be an egocentric leader. And again, employees want to know, they want opportunities to learn new things. So in the comments, how can you as a manager or a leader give your employees opportunities to learn new things? Well, you can send them to training, right? I remember when I ran my law firm, we partnered with a local community college. And so they were always offering continuing education courses. And I would send my supervisors, my first-time managers, and my rising stars, because I know the feeling that they would get when they felt like they learned something new. They would come back, and our organization would be the beneficiary of that. Good vibes, that feeling of camaraderie, that feeling that we invested in them, we would benefit. Now, of course, we couldn't keep them there. That wasn't enough to keep them there. We would have to continually be adding value to our people. But I know that when I was an employee, I valued being trained. I valued being given opportunities. So when I had my own firm, I made sure that my people were given opportunities to learn. Carolyn says, set up employees with a mentor or coach. Carolyn, and that is so simple, but many people don't do it, right? Because again, it comes back to company culture. If your company's culture is not one of training and development, that's not going to happen. But let me just say, the good news is this, right? If you're not a company with a culture like that, you can start today. It takes nothing. If you have 4 people in your organization, look at one of your rising star and begin to invest. Identify, it could start with a simple question like this. Where do you, with a conversation, where do you think you need some additional training right now? Is it Excel? Is it Word? Is it Slack? Is it the latest technology? How can we help you to gain that, right? And there are millions of courses that you could, I remember when I, again, had my firm, I had an online training program, right? It was a subscription-based program that the company paid for. And so it taught various skills like Excel, Word, presentation skills. And it was a small fee, very small fee. And I would give my employees the passwords for whatever they want, and it would be part of their review process, part of their training process, part of their growth process. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. There's so many programs available. But what it says to your employees is that my boss, my manager, my leader is interested in my growth. Okay, so there was two more points that this book covered in terms of understanding your young workers. But it's not just young workers, it's anyone. People want more fun at work, right? They want more fun at work. And they want small, unexpected rewards for jobs well done. Now, let's see. Let me see. Sandra, let me just show you. Sandra said, create a career development plan for each employee. Love it. Understand where they are in their skills and what requires development. That is so effective. That's what I did. And that's so effective. And there's so much gratitude from your employee when you do this. Understand their career goals and what they would need to get there and start developing a plan for them. Sandra, that takes, again, the right culture in your organization. And many times managers get blamed for the turnaround of staff, right? But here's where I put the blame. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And if a manager doesn't have that, if a leader doesn't have the culture in the organization where they have that training and that personal development culture, then it's going to send the wrong messages to the managers, and they're going to continue the culture down to the employees. But what you said there, Sandra, about creating a career development plan for each employee, it doesn't take that much work. It just takes a heart and an interest. Now, I think someone's asking a question about an egocentric leader, but I think that question, what do you do when you report to an egocentric leader? Alice, that is a great question. So I'm going to tell you two answers, and it could go either way. Okay. So you can continue being the best employee that you can, right? Hoping that you would just win them over, right? Hoping that, that you would just win them over. An egocentric leader is an insecure leader. Let me just say that. It's the egocentric leader is an insecure leader, because when you are a fully self-actualized leader, you don't have to be worried about your position, about how you look, about how you're showing up. You become that level 4 leader where you're trying to multiply yourself. So an egocentric leader is very, very hard to deal with, because they're a very immature leader that's trying to, to guard their position. So you could try to continue to do your best, try not to step on their toes, very difficult situation, and hope that they will somehow be less threatened by you. But but Alice, many times that is not the case. And if your company if there's no one who is above that leader that you can speak with, you are in a tough spot, and you may just have to find another job. Because if that leader is your last, if that's the ultimate leader, there's nothing you can do, Alice, because that's just immaturity. And until that leader gets trained and developed, you're in a bad spot. So I have to say that. I have to say that. Leadership by example, someone else said here. Yeah. I think Julian is saying the same thing that I'm saying. It's leave the company. It's a no-win situation. I'll give you a brief story. So I was working at this company, which will remain nameless, and I had an insecure leader. I wouldn't know if she was egocentric, but she was insecure. Made my life a living nightmare, no matter what I did. Now remember, I was a very good employee. I was getting awards. I was doing well, but she made my life very, very, very unpleasant, to the point where I began documenting everything. And I had to, thank goodness, this was a company with an HR department that was in a different state, but one that I could reach out to. So I reached out to HR with my documented proof. I didn't know what was going to happen, but one Friday, HR flew in to my location unannounced and began to interview all the employees about what was happening. To make a long story short, that company lifted me from that position that day and placed me in a different location where I thrived. And, I kept thriving. They didn't fire the leader. I thought they should have, but they didn't. But they removed me from the situation. The leader eventually later on resigned, but I was removed from the situation. I was fortunate to work in a company where I could do this, right? And if your company doesn't have that HR piece, I am hoping for all those leaders out there, there needs to be a safe space where your employees can safely report on, with documented proof, on abuse and really on abuse, because I can't, I was being abused, really. And so there's got to be that safe space where your employees can report on that. And unfortunately, many smaller companies don't have that. And even more unfortunately, the abuser is the main leader. So that is those are some of the pet peeves that young people especially have with leaders. But small unexpected rewards for jobs well done. Listen, even if your company is on a low budget, small unexpected rewards, breakfast on Friday, bagels, Dunkin' Donuts, small unexpected rewards. And this is for like a small company with no budget, right? An ice cream day, close the office early one Friday, 3:00. My team loved that. When I said, okay, you know what, guys, today we're going to close 2 hours early. Go home, spend time with your family, go shopping. Small unexpected rewards. It breeds so much loyalty. Hey, we're going to have ice cream today, ice cream Friday, dress down today. Small unexpected rewards. It just shows your team that you care. So and it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money at all. Now here's what is a turnoff, right? And some bosses are good at doing, they're just good at doing this. They keep talking about their past all the time. What they used to do when they were an employee, or what, no one wants to hear that, because as a leader, you need to evolve. You need to evolve as a leader. Let me just say this to the leaders who are listening. If you are not being coached, if you're not in a mastermind of some sort with other leaders, if you are not constantly reading and attending seminars and workshops on leadership, you are doing your team a disservice. I am constantly learning. I mean, I teach leadership and I'm constantly learning. I just became certified as a John Maxwell leader, coach, and trainer because I am constantly learning, because leadership is constantly evolving. So no one wants to hear about how you led 10 years ago. That model doesn't work right now. If last year taught us anything, it taught us this. You have to evolve. You have to be flexible. Another thing, I'm going to give you two more before we end today's broadcast, right? Employees do not like managers who are inflexible about time. Okay? They do not. They want flexibility in time. Now, I, as a young leader, had to learn this the hard way. Okay? I used to be an inflexible boss, but for instance, this goes back 23 years ago, where I felt like I was a small company and that I just needed you to be at work when it was work time, right? So I had that, you got to be at work when it's work time. But the truth is, I wasn't being sensitive as a mom, right? And I had 2 kids, but I had a built-in nanny. My mom was my built-in nanny. So I was insensitive to that. I learned that the hard way. So I had to switch that up, right? We have moms working and we have dads working, and their kids get sick, and their kids have parent day, and their kids have this day and that day and game day. And these parents want to be there for their kids. So an inflexible boss is from the past. You have to be flexible. The more you give, the more you're going to get. Look, if you have an employee who's taking advantage of your giving, then too bad, too bad for them. But I will tell you, as a leader, err on the side of being flexible. especially to those parents, because when a kid is sick, it just creates more stress. And if you're inflexible and your parent comes to work worried about their kid, you're getting 20%, if so much, of their productivity. So they might have well have stayed home, and then the next day give you 150%. You'd win more that way. So do not be inflexible with time. And the days of workaholism in companies, I think it's over. I remember when it was cool to say, oh man, I'm putting in, 15 hours, 12 hours a day on my job. Look, people, there's a lot of mental stress. There's a lot of mental issues. People want flexibility. They want, to be in a growth environment. They want to have a life outside of work. So you have to make work fun, and you have to make work you have to make work fun, and you have to make work flexible. And workaholism is just not the name of the game right now. Oh, and then for those of you who work with millennials and Gen Zs, right? Making disparaging comments about their generation, it's not going to work. We all remember when the millennials were coming into the workforce, right? And, stodgy employers were saying, oh, the millennials, they're so lazy, they're so entitled, they're so this, they're so that. We learned from that, right? Because those companies who didn't embrace millennials, they lost out. And now the Generation Z, I think they learned with Gen Zs, who is even more particular, right? Gen Zs, we know they're more cause-based, purpose-based, purpose-centered in their approach. So we made a mistake with the millennials by projecting how lazy they were, how entitled they were. And we missed the opportunities with these millennials. Many companies did, because they were technologically advanced. They had a different way of doing things. So disparaging comments about the next generation does not work. And for those of you who hire older workers, right? Disparaging comments about baby boomers doesn't work either, because the baby boomers, like myself, we still have a lot to offer in the workplace. Very wise advice also when dealing with insecure leaders is do your own inner woman work. Create peace within and not identify with the lies, pressure that an insecure leader brings. Insecure leaders thrive on stress, and you need to find your own inner peace and own sense of purpose and own validation to gird you up. Absolutely. This is why, great comment, and I Fungwa, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Great point there you made. And I will say this, right? Based on that last comment that we saw on the screen, you have to also work on you. Let me just say that if your company won't invest in training programs and in training you, let me just say this. You have to invest in you. In addition to me being blessed by working with a company when I was younger who invested in me, I also went back to school. I took classes, I took courses so that I had an advantage. I had an advantage over my peers who didn't, right? So, take advantage of investing in your own self, right? Getting your own mentor, getting outside of your company, getting your own coach outside of your company. Invest in you, because that's good. You are now the brand. If the last 10 years taught us anything, brands are not just Coca-Cola and Pepsi anymore. Brands aren't just heads of companies anymore. Brands are employees too. And your brand go with you. So what is your brand? Do you have a culture of self-development, right? You have to create your own brand, and you cannot sit back as an employee and wait for your boss to do that only, right? So you have to create your own brand. So again, our company, Sharon Gill International, we work with individuals and we work with organizations to help them create strategies, gain clarity, get them to, through their impasse, create that environment that's going to thrive, allows them to thrive as leaders and allows their team to thrive as an organization. So I will put right beneath the screen, SharonGill.com is how you can contact me, or you can DM me, follow me on LinkedIn at Sharon Gill. It was awesome having you. So much feedback. I will go through and answer some of your questions. And if you want to be on our show, I think we have listed in the comments, there is a short application form. If you are in leadership in your company, please go ahead and apply to be on our show. I usually have one or two guests alongside me on the show. So if you want to be on the show next Monday, we're here every Monday between 1:30 or so, between 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time hours. If you want to be on our show, apply, and I will let you know when you'll be on our show and if you qualify. Again, qualification requires you being in leadership and not camera shy. Thank you so much for watching. It's been an amazing 30 minutes. I hope you got something out of it. Leave your comments. And if you're team replay, just put hashtag team replay. Take care, and I'll see you next week.